Yeah, so I came from Belgium to Zurich with the train yesterday, so I had a lot of time to think about what I was going to say today. And I'm a designer by trade, which means that we use this method called the ideal final result method. Basically, you think of what the ideal result would look like, and then you back engineer sort of to what you can make right now. So I was thinking about what does sort of the ideal packaging, what would it look like? So I thought maybe, so imagine with me, right? So it would be really cool if you had a packaging that doesn't only sort of protects the food, but also improves the flavor of it, right? And that you can take off really easy, and everybody knows how to use it. It's standardized, everybody knows what it is and how it works. It's completely bio-based, completely biodegradable. Just chuck it in your compost garden stuff and it will go away. Maybe it would be cool if it's also something that has sort of a color code on it, so you can see sort of how fresh the food is, and when you really have to start eating it, or how you should use it. You know, something like that would be really cool. So it's a banana. I'm talking about a banana here. So my name is Jan. I'm a designer. I used to be a product designer, service designer. I switched pretty quickly to business model design. So how to design the structures surrounding products and how to work with that. And I've been working on circular economy and social innovation for the past 7 years now. Quite recently, we created a new company called switchrs, and switchrs is a strategic innovation agency. And basically what we do is, together with companies, we design circular business models, products, services. Ideally, we start from a strategic level and work all the way down to the product or the service that we create. So basically what we try to do is you have a lot of sustainability ambitions, and I truly believe that everybody wants to create a more sustainable world, but there's a big gap still between sustainability and then the business that you design around it. So what we try to do with switchrs is see if we can merge these two worlds together and make something where purpose does not stand in the way of making a good business model. And ideally make sure that profit or revenue from a model is a result of the model and not the goal of the model, and how we can work with that. So today I would like to talk a bit about business models. You know, what business models are, how they work, and especially why they are relevant. And why they are relevant is, I think, because, so what is a business model is, in a nutshell, an umbrella term for the entire rationale in which you create, deliver and capture value, which means it's not just the financial transaction. It's where you get your resources from, how you translate them into a product or a service, how you bring these product and service to users, how you work with end of life, and the entire chain in between it. So all the stakeholder interactions that you create, that's your business model, and the financial is sort of a part in that. And what we often do in product design is you take a product or a service and then you give it to people, people use it, then you see how they use it or misuse it, or what they do with it, and then you improve the product, right? That's sort of how we look at innovation most of the times. And basically, what you do is you look at a car and you say, well, the future of cars, that will probably be electric. But the future of mobility might not be cars. And that's something that we have to really understand when we're innovating, and especially when doing business model design, is you have to look beyond the product, right? We often look at the materials that we use and we innovate the materials. We look at the products that we make and we innovate the products itself. And I think that Professor Laurent Depré just said it really good, is we're pretty good at sort of designing out the bad stuff, but we should also really look at designing in the good stuff. And so we have to start looking beyond the product itself. And that means going from the as-is situation to the should-be or could-be situation. That means that instead of just looking at the product and the service, always look back at the assumptions and the logic that you had creating that product. Because every product is pretty much just derives from the way you approach a specific problem and how you deal with that and how you translate that into a sort of interaction you would like with clients, with customers, with whatever it is you're creating. And then that turns out to be a product or a service, and then you bring that to the people and see if or whether or not your assumptions were right. And sometimes, instead of changing the product, it's easier to change the logic that you created. And important there is to understand and keep track on the fact that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, right? We often, I mean, it's been said here before today as well. I mean, facts and data do not drive societal change. We all hope it would, but if that was the case, there would be no debate on whether or not climate is changing, right? There would be no debate on whether or not it's a good idea to throw plastics in the ocean. You know, facts and data do not change our society. The way that we experience and interpret these data and these facts, that's what changes it. And the way we experience the world is through design. Right? It's through the products that we use, the services, the people that we talk to, the books we read, the movies we watch. That's how you look at the world. And that's also the superpower that design has, and why I think design is extremely important when you look at circular economy or sustainability in a broad sense, is that designers have the power to alter the way that people look at stuff, the way that people think about things. So what I really believe is that, I mean, we often look at how content changes the context, and that's very valuable, but I think it's even more important to see how context defines content. If you're capable of altering the context and actually owning the context much more from a business point of view or design point of view, that's much more interesting, because context tends to age better than content. Content is renewed very fast. So if you're really focused on the content you create, your product or your business or whatever it is has the same lifespan as the product you made. So it's very short most of the time. If you control the context, I mean, it all depends on how long you can range that and change the content within. And what's also important is when talking about creativity and about design, people often talk about thinking outside of the box. And I can tell you now, thinking outside of the box is really easy. It's also most of the times not relevant. What's most important is what is the box, right? What is the box you're thinking about, and is this box what you should be thinking about? So designing the box is much harder and much more relevant, I think. So I looked at some drivers I think that are changing packaging right now, or could be a good driver for changing packaging, to sort of switch that context which we're in. So one is changing user behavior. It's a very easy one to tap into. Users look at things differently and want new products, but if these products are not there, they will not use it. So this is from my hometown in Ghent in Belgium, but it's been happening all over the world right now. Is people going to the shop and unpacking their stuff before they buy it, right? Leaving the plastics there. Now that's very interesting, because this is just basically bad business model design, right? You sell people stuff they don't want and they give it back to you, and now it's your problem. And I mean, these retailers didn't ask for all the packaging. They just got it and they just resold it. But this was happening in Ghent pretty much, a lot. I mean, a lot of people were doing this, and so there was this one idea that people got. So maybe instead of just doing this only at retail, we could also just go to. In Belgium, we have a lot of French fry shops, but pretty much everywhere. We just started bringing stuff to these places and say, instead of using your packaging, you just put it in there, and we'll take it home. And that then led to someone saying, okay, if you all want to buy bulk, maybe we just create a bulk shop. And I don't sell packaging, but you bring everything, food container, whatever it is, you bring it with you, and we'll put it in there. And so it's an interesting thing to see how a change in user behavior can actually lead to business model innovation, to new ways, because the shop right there is sold out pretty much every month. They have to restock and resell. I think they've got about 4 stores right now already. Another interesting driver is making packaging not sort of the wrapper of something, but a structural part of your product. So how can you make the packaging part of your product and actually improve your business model because of that? This is another example. Toys are very interesting in this, and child plays. Another thing, improving the product through your packaging. This is a mycelium material, so mushroom material. If you plant this in your garden, it actually feeds your plants and make it grow faster than if you would use something else. And then improving experience. This is food makers. They are selling a lot at events, festivals, stuff like that. And so they make their bowls out of bread. So basically what you do is you sort of eat your plate while you're eating your plate, which is very fun. Another thing I noticed recently while traveling I thought was really interesting is if people talk about straws and banning straws and changing straws, I mean, you can choose for these sort of metallic things that are really nasty, and then you can choose the bamboo stuff. We don't know who touched it. and they just used spaghetti. And I thought it was interesting. You just use a hollow spaghetti, and at the end you can eat it because it's been soaked in whatever it was you're drinking. So just the final remark I would like to make on circular packaging, because I work a lot on circular economy, is there's a big question on how will the circular economy impact packaging. Right? So circular economy is basically going from linear beyond recycling, because it's been said already today, recycling is just sort of nudging a bit the existing system but not really changing it, and moving towards the circular economy. And basically the idea is people do not want a power drill, they want a hole in the wall. And actually they don't even want a hole in the wall, they want to put something up on the wall. So that should be what you should be selling them instead of the power drill. Just make sure that the picture is there. And so the Ellen MacArthur Foundation made this reuse report recently on packaging, and they had 4 models: refill, return, and then at home or on the go, which means that you have refill at home or refill on the go, return, and return on the go. So I have 4 examples, and then I quit. So the first one is refill at home. An example is Splosh. Splosh sells soap. And they thought, well, the biggest impact in selling detergent is you transport water from one side of the world to the other side of the world. So instead of doing that, we'll just sort of sell small packages that you put in a bottle, and then you put water in it, and you've got your soap. And you can just reuse the packaging, and we make sure that you just get a subscription of how much soap you use every month or week or whatever. Another thing, this is in London, return from home, it's Bada Drop. It's basically derived from a practice that has been going on in India for about 400 years now. Is people come to your doors and give you food, and you give them back the previous cook pot and you take a new one. Another one, Fresh Bowl, this is New York if I'm not mistaken, return on the go. So a lot of commuters eat their food while on the train. So these are sort of vending machines in train stations, and you give your bowl back, you get $2 and you get a new one, and you sort of keep changing them for new bowls, so sort of return on the go while you're commuting. And then the last one, I think this one is the most used right now, is refill on the go, is coffee cups, right? So you get a discount if you use a refillable coffee cup, and you just sort of give it there and you take it away again. So I think an important question is, instead of looking at how will the circular economy impact packaging, you're always in a pretty reflective, reacting role, and you're not really leading, you're just sort of following and hoping they won't control you too much. I think it might actually be interesting to see how can packaging impact the circular economy, and how can packaging actually lead to the change that we need. So thank you very much.